7:04 p.m. on Wednesday, November 16th. We'll begin this evening's Select Board meeting. We'll start off with public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being no one. The next item on the agenda is the review of meeting minutes for October 5th, 2022. I just sent an email within the last hour and a half or so. There was just one amendment to the meeting minutes, and I got to it late. But there was just one portion in there that spoke to, it had said that Chairman Kovas had said that Ms. Dicko couldn't serve on there, and I just wanted to clarify that hadn't said that, but I sent you the email with it, and I went back and just quoted what was said, but it was just I just wanted that clarified that I did not say she could not serve on there. But outside of that, everything looked fine.
So we approve it with that exception, or?
Right, I didn't get the email, so I'm not really...
I just sent it to I had sent it to Michael and Joyce.
Okay.
I can send it to you right now if you want.
No, I'm just trying to,
Should we?
if the board's comfortable with the, I'll move that we approve the minutes for October 5th, 2022, as amended by the chair.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item is with Mr. Duffy.
Mr. Chair, just so everyone understands, we had a joint meeting with the Finance
Oh, I'm
Committee.
sorry, I jumped over there. There you go. So,
We're gonna,
correct. So at our last meeting, we had an item on the agenda to discuss next steps for the exploring the paramedic service. Because we tabled the items, if we had discussed it, then there was going to be a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. But being that we didn't discuss it initially on November 2nd, we will table the joint meeting with FinCom to discuss the paramedic service, and we can continue that at a later date. Thank you.
thank you.
So next, we have Mr. Duffy.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Abdallah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to come speak for you this evening. I'm here on two matters. First one involves just me, and the second one involves both Lee and myself. First, I'm here to request your permission to make application to one or two FEMA grants on December 5th. This is a grant to ideally provide funding to make improvements to the counterpane brook drainage system. As you know, it has failed twice in the last 11 years with multi-million dollars worth of damage. We are seeking to fund a project that would make improvements in 4 areas of the drainage system. I'd be happy to describe to you those changes in detail if you'd like. The budget right now at the last budget check was $11.1 million. We'd be applying for a grant where the town share would be 10%, so the town share would be a little over $1 million, $1.1 million. If we are successful, I imagine we'd be coming back to talk about potentially using funds from the Infrastructure Stabilization Fund for that purpose. I'm here to request your permission to apply to those grants through MEMA, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, so if we get it, we don't have to accept it. We figure out the funding once we are
We would
awarded.
apply with a letter explaining where we expect the funds to come from. If we get the grant, then, yes, then we would have to follow up and secure those funds.
Okay.
Any other questions?
You said it's failed in the last 2 years? Or, sorry, it's failed twice in the last 10 years?
11 years.
11 years.
We had flood in, I guess it's 13 years now. It was 11 years when we started. If you recall, this was preceded by a grant we received 2 years ago to do the design work for this project. It failed in 2009. I don't know if you recall, sandbags at the doors to the elementary school cafeteria. flooding on Nelson Street, flooding around the gas station. If you recall, the buildings that are now slated for renovation had water pouring out of the basement windows. And then it's failed again in 2017, causing, I think, $1.7 million worth of damage to Nitro at the time, J-Built, as well as unrelated, only slightly related flooding at the Museum of Russian Icons due to a clogged storm basin.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Community and Economic Development Director's request to apply for a grant with the Federal Emergency Management Agency in the amount of $11 million for drainage improvement to Counterpane Brook. Excuse me.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
If it's any
11.1.
11.1 is the number, but that is the number the last time we did the check, now that we're doing the application, which was back in the spring. We have to apply any.
I'll withdraw my motion and move that we apply, that we approve the Director of Community and Economic Development to apply for a grant with the Federal Emergency Management Agency for drainage improvement to Counterpane Brook with a 10% match from the town of Clinton.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then second, here, just on an informational basis, kind of give an update on events that are planned over the next month or so for the holiday. I've brought Lee with me. She's kind of the point person on all this stuff. And I will just turn the mic over to her.
Okay, hi. Just something that's not related to the holidays, but all of you received the invitation for, we're going to do a group ribbon cutting for, there's multiple new businesses opening up in the downtown area over the last several months, but there are 3 in continuous spaces on High Street that are opening. So we decided it would be nice to get into the habit of doing some more ribbon cutting ceremonies as an opportunity and a vehicle for public relations to obviously highlight these, new additions to the vibrancy. So that you got that invitation. Hopefully, if you can make it, we'd love for you guys to come. It's going to be 11 a.m. and out of there by 11:45. So we will not be monopolizing your day. And we are doing a public relations effort around it. The Clinton item unfortunately can't make it, but they've agreed to do things. We're going to take photographs for them. The television department's coming. Mass Live is actually discussing doing a larger business profile article on the businesses and the development of downtown. So,
And if I could, and
Yes.
if anyone who's watching on television wishes to come to this ribbon cutting, the 3 businesses are Scarlet Nook, Soulful Co., and
AB Aesthetics.
Aesthetics.
Yes.
It's Friday morning, November 18th at 11 a.m. These are 3 women-owned businesses opening up mid-block on High Street.
Exactly. So, and hopefully more of that to come in the months to come as well. So, there's that. Okay, on to all things bows and ribbons and glitter. Okay, everybody got a list of things that we are looking at. We're currently working on encouraging the different business owners in downtown to do something special on Shop Local Saturday, which is the 26th. It's obviously a nationwide campaign, and we've had a good response from the different business owners of, yes, there's a certain number of shops where you can actually purchase something, but there's also a lot of opportunities for people to purchase gift cards, the tattoo parlors, the barber shops, the restaurants, things like that. And that's something that we're going to be really focusing and highlighting on, not just on Saturday the 26th, but throughout the holiday season of, spend your money downtown, spend it in town. So that's happening during the day on the 26th. 5 o'clock is the annual tree lighting ceremony. And that is truly a group effort between Joyce in the Select Board office, pardon me, and Parks and Rec and SEMA and the police and a whole bunch of other folks. We're going to be adding to it a little bit this year. And I forgot to point out the Chamber of Commerce. The biggest element that's going to be different this year is that the George Bailey Award, because obviously with the Strand being closed, we're going to bring that outside and put it on stage. We're setting up a stage next to the tree, and the person who wins the award will be awarded the award, because I'm going to keep saying the word award, on stage, and they are going to throw the light switch, which is going to be an oversized gold light switch to turn the lights on with. And that way the community gets to come and gather and applaud this person and their efforts, as well as see the beautiful lights. We'll be having some Mrs. Claus and the Girl Scouts and Santa and some other characters, and we'll be having some entertainers that were here, stilt walkers and different things like that, DJ, treats, different things like that. So hopefully everyone can join us, and we'll be doing a promotional campaign continuing online and offline about promoting that. Then just in chronological order, what's not on here, there's obviously other organizations in town that are doing, you know, different events, which are fantastic, and I stay out of their way, namely the Holiday Pops, which is going to be on the 3rd. It's fantastic. Also on the 26th, I understand the Senior Center is having a holiday open house that late afternoon and into evening, I believe, 5 to 7, for a Get Warm event following the tree lighting. So should be a good hopping afternoon and day.
I can just,
Yes.
I also understand on the 26th, Sunshine Cafe will be having a crafters fair in their new space, which they're opening on the 24th.
There you go.
Is
So,
there new space
next
close to the old space?
It's next door to the old
It's next door.
space. It was the Gymnastics Academy last,
Uh-huh.
and I think it was a dollar store way back when. But they've opened they're opening a function in which their intended opening is November 24th for Thanksgiving, and then on the 26th for this Ravage.
Nice.
So Deb started this pretty much.
I think one of the schools is doing one as well, or maybe just did one. There's several around in the area. After that, the next focus of the event is, next event is going to be on the 10th. Again, group effort between Parks and Rec and Chamber and our office of a couple things. One is a holiday house lighting competition. 2, business holiday decoration contest with prizes and things. On the 10th, we have buses coming and leaving, departing periodically from downtown to take people on tours of the businesses and the houses that sign up for the contest. And there's actually going to be like an app that people on their phones can vote straight from the buses. There's going to be music, and we're going to have a DJ. There will be an ice sculptor and a fire juggler, and
Keep them apart.
and we will keep them apart. Yes, exactly. Fire and ice will not be near each other. And so it'll be a nice event where it's the type of thing where people can come, you buy tickets in advance so you know what time you're getting on the buses, so people can plan to do that and then pop in and have a drink somewhere, or go out to dinner, or pick up a pizza and head home, and give people the flexibility. I think that's one of the things that we really kind of came to that conclusion on this year for holidays was, instead of putting all of our eggs in one basket on one specific thing, very tightly controlled, we wanted to just create these little pockets of coming down and doing what fits into your life and then going with it. So that's kind of where we are for sheer events. The decorations, and I met with the lighting committee, and they're obviously, if you've been outside in the last day or whatever, you can see that things are going on the light poles, and they look gorgeous. The same company is going to be installing all day tomorrow the oversized decorations that was discussed at the committee. Up first is the wall of the police station that faces the fork in the road. There'll be 4, I think they're 7-foot tall, light up candy canes along with a banner and a wreath. The police department has been extremely accommodating and lovely, as well as the facilities department. That's number 1. And then, not to be forgotten, the fire station will be going down the hill. There'll be decorations on what's commonly apparently referred to as the football. See, I'm getting the lingo. On the football, there will be trees and a 6-foot tall snowflake. And then we're going over to, it's kind of a zone defense. There we go. It's basketball season. Depot Square is getting a trio of oversized trees. One's 12-foot, one is 9-foot, and one is 6-foot. As well as we're going to wrap 2 of the smaller trees that flank the War Memorial there as well. So the idea is not just to gild the lily of High Street. Again, it's to spread the wealth and make downtown a true area. Next up is I Lost My Mind, and Jean's Towing is getting a new banner to replace the existing banner, and it will be decorated with tires that are being turned into Christmas trees and wreaths. Yes, and also a replica of Snoopy's doghouse. So we'll be doing a campaign to have people bring their dogs down to take a picture of their dog for their holiday cards in front of Snoopy's doghouse. And last up is it's not 100% locked in. We're working with Brendan Bailey from the Veterans Office to place a oversized white lighted star appropriately positioned by the War Memorial here, but not blocking anything. Kind of double duty of appropriately patriotic and also holiday. So there's that. And then as far as online campaigns and just general promotion, Shop Local Saturday, the gift cards we talked about, and the window decorating contest. So just getting people different reasons to come down and get jazzy. Spend some money.
And giving people different reasons to talk about what they saw in Princeton. We're trying different things. And we talked about the fire station, the police station, the depot, and Jean's Towing. I mean, those are locations, but those are also gateways into the downtown. So this actually this is of a piece with a lot of the thinking we've been doing about sidewalk build out and complete streets, and downtown revitalization, and redefining downtown as more than High Street and more than just where are the stores. If downtown is a multi-use, multivalent district that is a community place more than, if not as much as, more than it is a commercial space. And so this is all tying into that.
Exactly. Oh, and I want to be sure to mention that the Masons very generously are giving us 8 Christmas trees, which will be wrapped in lights and placed in different spots around, incorporated into some of these locations and also some other locations, which is very, very generous of them. So, yep. Anyone?
It's all great stuff.
No, I'm pumped. Yeah,
Great.
sounds exciting.
Yeah, my fourth grader said when they were coming home from school and saw the decorations on High Street, the bus erupted in cheer. So,
All right,
One
we
the
like
next
it. We like
generation
it.
at
So, great. And then hopefully after the holidays, there'll be more different initiatives and different things to come. So, good.
Perfect.
Exciting.
All right.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda would be the FY '23 goals and objectives for the town administrator. Mr. Ward had submitted some proposed goals and was also looking for some feedback. Is there anything that you'd like to speak to, Mr. Ward?
No, just I think in response to the overall goals adopted by the board, looking at different objectives to satisfy some of those goals, came up with these suggestions to see if they're satisfactory to the board or if there are any other ideas board members might have.
thank you.
My only suggestion, these are all great, thank you so much, I'm excited for the year. We're already like working on those like website updates, and to me that kind of feels like a customer service, also kind of like, kind of falls under 2 and 4. We're already working on it, I feel like it might be a good goal to include.
So this is for the improving the website?
Yeah, we've already started on it for this
Okay.
year, but so I imagine it will be completed or in progress, but just wanted it documented if that's,
So you'd just like to see it added to either number 2 or number 4?
yeah, well, there's some like develop communications plan, research, like just maybe complete the upgrade of the website. It doesn't have to be included, that's just a suggestion, but we've already started it, so I just
Right.
thought it might be a
Right, no,
good thing
it's
to
good, definitely.
include
Definitely.
as we move forward.
It's definitely something that we want to
Or
highlight
capture.
and
Yeah, exactly.
gear towards as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it might make more sense to go under goal number 4, Julie? since that's the one that speaks to
I
customer
think so,
service?
yeah, I would put it in, I mean, I kind of see like the website as a customer service tool as well as like marketing communication, so.
Sure.
Are you open to that, Michael? Does
No, I
that sound
think
good?
it's, I think it's a good suggestion, yeah, absolutely. Yep, it's something that we've started and something that could put on as a deliverable to complete within that time period.
Exactly.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with the addition of improving the town website under goal number 4.
Yeah, goals and objectives.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I say minutes?
It's okay.
Sorry. It sounded weird.
That one,
Hey.
that's mine.
Strike the motion, make it again. Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve the town administrator goals with the addition of the improving the town website under goal number 4.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to thank Michael for doing this. This is exactly what I was looking for, and I think, I know it's been a long process, but I think it's definitely headed in the right direction. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? There being none, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Very good, thank you. So then the next step would be working towards department head goals, right? Creating, perfect.
Yep, so now I'll take these, and there'll be actually different projects as part of these goals that would be done by departments or department managers as well. That would kind of all then bring it all together. Yeah.
Very good, beautiful, excellent. Moving on to administrative business. United Church of Clinton banner request for 329 High Street. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the request from the United Church of Clinton to hang a banner on town property at 329 High Street to advertise their German Christmas market. The event is from December 12th to the 3rd. I would just ask that it falls into whatever policy we've come up with in accordance, in conjunction with the town administrator and the Community and Economic Development Office.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next item, Holiday Pops Concert Petty Cash. The Holiday Pops Concert Committee is requesting approval for a $500 advance from the revolving fund to set up cash boxes for use on the day of the event. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, just, I know we've done this in the past, but Michael, can you remind me, like, as far as security, would they keep that someplace in Parks and Rec, or?
Yeah, I think they would just get in advance, probably check that Thursday or Friday before, that they would cash, and then they would just bring it Saturday to the event for ticket sales and other sales that they'll be doing to have change for the, to get started.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Holiday Pops Concert Committee request for a $500 advance from their revolving fund to set up a cash box for use on the day of the Holiday Pops concert on the 3rd of December.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last one, a one-day beer and wine license for Holiday Pops Concert. The Holiday Pops Concert Committee is requesting a one-day beer and wine license in conjunction with their holiday concert event taking place on Saturday, December 3rd, 2022, at the Clinton Town Hall Fallon Auditorium.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Holiday Pops Concert Committee request for a one-day beer and wine license in conjunction with the holiday concert event taking place on Saturday, December 3rd, 2022, at the Clinton Town Hall Fallon Auditorium.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions?
Plenty of tickets still available. Sign up, going, Clinton Parks and Rec. Yep,
Very good.
should be a great show.
Any others? There being none, all in favor?
Aye. Yeah, my plug's in.
So, Michael, on the, within the packet, there was also the abatement letter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those we're gonna hold on
Hold
those
on.
because they weren't on the agenda, so
Okay.
there are only 2 properties of just opt-outs of the program that they get refunds back for opting out of the program, so that'll be on the next agenda.
Perfect. All right. Very good. Moving on to old and new business. Parks and Recreation Commission has notified the Select Board that there was a resignation from the board. Mr. Garofoli has moved from the town of Clinton, thus vacating his position. And they're interested in putting together a plan to fill this seat through an appointment. So would the next step, would that position be posted, or?
Right, yeah, as determined by the board, historically, it's been posted in the paper and on the website, town website, just soliciting public interest. And then there would be a joint meeting to review all the candidates, and the select board, along with the members of the Parks and Rec Commission, would make that vote for that appointment. So if it's something the board wanted to start the advertising, we could get it in the item next week and on the town website. And then probably wouldn't be enough time to, out there for the next meeting, but maybe for a December meeting, maybe request a joint meeting with the Parks and Rec for December to go over all the candidates, if that sounds feasible.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move we authorize the town administrator to advertise the vacancy on the Parks and Rec Commission as soon as possible, and to notify the Parks and Rec Commission that we'd like to have a joint meeting with them on December 14th to consider applicants.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? There being none?
Mr. Chair, could I just make, just on the process, if you're going to have the Parks and Rec in on the 14th, you're going to have, if whatever applicants come in, you're going to have those, Michael, distribute those to the board and to the Parks and Rec members in advance, just the process, or they're going to see them for the first time that night. You may want to make that part of the motion.
Sure. I'll withdraw my motion and make a new motion to, this can all be one, to authorize the town administrator to advertise for the Parks and Recs Commission vacancy as soon as possible, to request a joint meeting with the Parks and Rec Commission on December 14th, and to, I mean, if we're, sorry, 30-second time out here. If we're advertising in the item on the 2nd, then 2 weeks would be, sorry, if we're advertising on the 25th, then the 9th, do you feel that's enough time to get things to people to, I mean, we should advertise for 2 weeks, right?
And I was just thinking, I don't want if the Parks and Rec were to show up and see the applicants for the first time that night, they're probably going to say, hey, we need time to review
Yeah.
these.
Yeah, well, I agree.
So
So-
I just want to make sure
Maybe-
we don't want to waste time. So
maybe
that's all.
the
That was the only
January
point I was
meeting?
trying to make. It's up to the
Okay.
I think you could do 2 ways, Mr. Chair. All members of this board and the Parks Board have email, so either you could get emailed the candidates' letters as they come in, or have them all sent out as a joint email on the deadline of December 9th, and then it would give everybody that 5 days or so to review.
Do you think about that? Would you prefer January?
I just was thinking like time frame and people who, I don't know how, I guess, when does the paper come?
It's
Would
on
be the
Fridays.
third, I'll just, sometimes it takes a while to get the word out. I don't care either way. but
Well,
We have one meeting in December, correct?
Mr. Chair, as much as I want to accommodate the Parks and Rec to get them another functioning member, we are talking about the holiday period, so maybe if we, advertise as soon as possible and then shoot for the 4th of January, and that would give, what do we want to make a deadline for applications then?
We'll think the same, you keep the same timeline, right, where if everything's in by the 9th, then
Well,
Well, sorry, when are we advertising?
that would buy us 3 more weeks if
What's-
we're meeting on the 1st.
the plan would be to get it in the paper
Next-
for next Friday.
Okay. So the 25th and the 2nd?
unless you wanna go 3 weeks.
I mean, the
Well, I mean,
25th
we're-
is the day after Thanksgiving, so I don't know
Buys
how
us
many
another
people
month.
read the paper then.
All the ads things.
Right, maybe. The item.
I mean, I'll defer to the board, but I mean, we could even set up a deadline of applying for the 16th of December. That would give it a full month.
Sure.
Ish.
Let's
And
go
that
for
way
it.
that would give us, 2 weeks, including the holiday period, to review these things. So I will make a motion to authorize the town administrator to advertise for the Parks and Rec vacancy, to invite the Parks and Rec Commission to a joint meeting on January 4th, and to set a deadline of December 16th for applications, with applications after then to be distributed to both boards as soon as possible.
I'll second.
Any questions, discussions, clarification?
Just more of a request, sometimes if at all possible, if we can review the applications ahead of time and try to have an idea in your head of who you think would be the most appropriate candidate, and try to avoid, sometimes these sessions can turn into 3-4 people, like, talking about how they're gonna do this, that, and the other thing for like, and it turns into like 30, 45 minutes of everyone like pitching to get the spot. I've seen these be handled more efficiently if everyone reads the letters of application, kind of has an idea of what they think is appropriate, and then going into the appointment process, so we can kind of get it done efficiently. I don't think it's really the appropriate venue for people to kind of be like pitching, but that's just my preference, so it's.
So the proposal of not having the candidates,
It's up to the pleasure of the board. My personal, I would avoid like letting everyone each, because if we have like 3 or 4 people, then they each want to get up there and they want to talk for 5 minutes, and then people want to ask questions, and then people feel like they have to ask the other candidate questions, and it just seems like it kind of drags it out a lot, but that's just my personal, it's up to the pleasure of the board, but that's just my personal preference.
I don't know how we've done in the
Just to
past.
put some input on this, I
Yeah.
know in the past, previously in the past, when this has occurred, I think that the board of selectmen have basically gone to the will of whatever board has got the vacancy, so, because that person will be serving on their board. And, but, I mean, that's just the way that it was done in the past. I mean, if you see it differently.
well,
So
and
if
I don't think that, like at the last appointment we had was handled the same way. It was essentially,
Well, no, you have to go through the process, but I'm just saying
Correct.
that
but like the last meeting, the last time we did this, I think one candidate showed up, one candidate was not here, so one had a chance to speak, the other one essentially didn't have a chance to speak, so I think it's either, they all get an opportunity to have a couple minutes to kind of make a statement, or if we just go based on the resume and the letter of interest.
But you're saying defer to the board?
I'm just
that
saying in the
is-
past, that's
Yeah,
what we
that's
tried to accommodate, whatever board had the vacancy, because that person's gonna, serve for that board.
Yeah, so if they were interested in having them speak for 5 minutes, yeah, I don't know what they're,
Any other? All right, so we'll go with the calendar, that timeline we'll take under advisement. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Select Board High Street Sidewalk Tour, Mr. Devolt.
So I know that we are busy working with the construction company right now to try to repair some spots, but I just kind of constantly it's been brought to my attention some different areas that people have complained are either cracked or spalling, and I can't be everywhere at once. I've just kind of reassured them that we're trying to repair what we've seen, but the complaints just kind of built up enough that I don't know if their complaints are legitimate or if they're just people being like really nitpicky about the project, but I think it's to a point where it would make sense. I personally feel like it's not that long of a stretch of sidewalk. I would like to just to put this thing to bed so that if people complain to me again, I can say, yeah, I walked the whole length of sidewalk and I looked at every area and I submitted my results back to the DPW or I know Chris was working with that company. So, I mean, what I'm proposing, what I would like to do, like myself, and I'm just opening it up to other board members if they want, but I'd like to just personally walk from the end down at Union, down to Water Street, and then up and down Church Street, and just document every defect in the sidewalk, every crack, every spalling, and then give that report back to Chris and just see how that jives up with I know that they had walked on some portions of the sidewalk already, and if what we observed matches with what the exercise that they went through a couple months ago, then great. All it is a little bit of lost time on my part, and whose ever part wants to partake in this activity. But if we do identify some new areas that weren't covered in that first walkthrough, then I think it would warrant a kind of a revisiting of which portions of the sidewalk we're requesting get repaired. For lack of a better term, the straw that broke the camel's back was somebody had complained to me about like a large crack in front of Aubuchon's. And I had never seen it before, and I just had never heard all the defects we've been talking about has been spalling. I haven't heard anything about a crack, so I went over and took a look, and sure enough, there's a big crack going right from in front of Aubuchon's, and it goes out into that vacant area where the Four Seasons Salon used to be. So, that's when I was just like, all right, I just want to walk up and down these sidewalks and just document everything that we find, because if we don't report any of these defects now, we're never going to be able to get them repaired. So I think it's worth doing one last walkthrough and having a conversation with the construction company and seeing if it's something that they're willing to address, and at least, we can take pictures and we can document the address, the approximate address where each of the defects are. So I just want to bring it to the board's attention. It's something that I'm going to do myself, but I just want to open it up. If there's other members of the board that would like to do this activity with me, I will work my schedule around your availability. So that's pretty much it.
Any other input, discussion, questions?
Could we set something up, maybe with Chris? Is it possible that if the select board wanted to get together, that, I don't know how we do so, with open meeting law and whatnot, but if we could get together and just kind of have
Yeah, I'm sure that Mr. McGowan and Mr. Duffy would be available to walk through. They were working with the contractor on that project, so I'm sure they'd be happy to walk with the board. I mean, obviously with daylight savings, it would have to be sometime, at light, so.
Could I just ask a question then of Phil? That you were involved with them replacing the panels that they saw the deficiencies in? And where do you see as the status?
Can we just have Phil come to the table so that way people at home can hear?
Sure.
We did, as you know, we did core samples, we did testing. We addressed most of the spalled panels. Where we didn't address the spalled panel, it was either a situation where it was a minor condition, or there was the likelihood, given adjacent conditions like, say, the foam mats in front of the trees, where the repair might end up with an outcome that was worse than the minor spalling. There is cracking on High Street. A lot of it is merely superficial cracking. It doesn't compromise the functionality of the sidewalk. There are some more profound cracks that have opened up in high-stress places. We didn't look specifically at the cracking when we did the work, because the outcome, the complaint that was addressed through testing was the spalling. We were profoundly concerned that would not stop, that would continue to deteriorate. Most cracking, the cracks will open up, but the kind of cracks, like, I know exactly the crack you're looking at. Yeah, and it's ghastly to look at and see this crack that goes for 25 feet. But we didn't look at replacing that. It's concrete inevitably will crack. It's a very brittle material. The additives that are allowed to be put in concrete are very different than the additives that could go in 30 years ago. It seemed to be less of a problem. But if there are additional concerns, and those are documented, it's the will of the selectmen to raise that issue again, we certainly can.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is just, it's our last chance. I just want to be able to, the next time somebody complains to me, just be able to look them in the eye and be like, we've literally done everything we possibly can. We literally walked up and down High Street, identified every defect, worked with the company as best we could, and, hopefully it's something that they'll be able to work with us on. Hopefully it's nothing that we think is that bad where we'd have to go down like a legal path. I haven't heard anyone talking anything in those, so far. There seems to be a lot of cooperation from the company to try to stand by their work. So, hopefully this won't be anything different. But like I said, I feel like if we don't do this this is the time to just do it. Do it now, do it one last time, and put it to bed. And then the improvement is what it is.
Again, and the company has been very good to work with. I think that's a consequence of the relationship that primarily Chris, but also I developed with the company over time. That relationship has allowed us to get this literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of replacement work done this fall without getting involved in it. So that has been a benefit of the kind of relationship we've been able to cultivate and sustain with the company.
So, I can just reach out through the chair to the rest of the board, and if anyone else is interested, reach out to you. And otherwise, I'll just figure no news is, no one's interested, which is fine, and I'll just kind of move ahead myself. Or if anyone else is interested, then we can work something out together. But I'd like to get it done within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think just if it's gonna require posting,
Yeah, so it'll only require posting if two people, if more than one other select board member chooses to be a part of it.
And I want to say, I don't mind getting involved. It just means that those repairs are years down the road.
Sure. Understood.
Any other discussion about that? All right, so, sounds good. All right, next, we have the ALS Paramedic Initiative update. I have been asked for an update on this with the ALS committee, and we've been meeting about this for some time. I had spoke to FinCom, and they were going to begin discussing this during budget season, and I would like to entertain having a joint meeting between FinCom, the Select Board, Chief Lutz, and Captain Chamberlain, just so we can kind of get a pulse within the room between everybody. I think this is something that is important to the town, and anytime we can provide ourselves to, if there's anything that we have to kind of work through, the more time we have, the better position we're going to be, regardless of the decision that ends up being made. But I'm hoping for, if the board is willing to support having a joint meeting at our next meeting between all parties, and then we can review our findings. And then it allows the select board to, members of the select board to ask any questions, provide any feedback, and same thing with FinCom.
Mr. Chair, so have we agreed that we're moving forward with this and we're just trying to figure out the best way to move forward, or are we still trying to figure out if we're even moving forward with this or not?
We're still trying to figure out if we're moving forward with this or not, primarily through the logistics. There's concerns over implementation. There's a lot of moving parts to this, which is part of the reason why I'd like to get everybody together.
Yeah, I understand this is a big decision, but from the meetings that we've had with the fire department, it just seemed like this is something that we're already really far behind on. And it's a service, I know there's a price tag to it, but the benefit is an improved quality of life in town, and we wouldn't have to depend on other towns that provide the service. So there'd be some cost savings there. There's other communities that we could charge for the service, so there's cost savings there. So it's a hefty price tag, but there is opportunity to get some of that money back, and it's gonna be a quality of life improvement to the town. So I kind of, maybe I'm naive, but I kind of thought we were heading towards that direction. And I know we've had multiple meetings with the fire department. I know there's been subcommittee meetings. So I'm just kind of surprised at this point that we're still, this has been going on for years now, that we're still trying to figure out if we even want to move forward on this or not. So I mean, it'll be a good meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, as someone who endorsed the idea of this maybe 2018, I'd have to check the tape, but our meetings are on tape, just for the people watching at home. We televise our meetings. I don't think, I would still love to see how this is going to work. It's a puzzle of many pieces, and I think that some of the, without speaking for anyone but myself, I think some of the hesitation in getting it over this next hurdle is just seeing how it's going to all come together. So I know it's a big number, and I'm happy to argue for it, but I just want to make sure that I know if I'm going to town meeting that I have the ammunition to back this up. And right now I don't feel like I have that. So I'm looking forward to hearing. I know that Mr. Kovas' subcommittee has been working very hard at this, and I trust they've got some numbers to share. So, like I said, I saw the need for this, and other members of this board, or previous boards, saw this several years ago, and we're definitely something we need. I just want to make sure that we're not, I just want to make sure it's something I can back up when it comes to voting for it, because I know someone's going to, tough questions going to be asked.
Again, I'm new to the board, obviously, and I know there was probably previous discussion, but I think there are a lot of moving parts to this, and I myself would like to have more information before I would endorse it. You know, I think, I don't know, it just seems to me to be premature to meet with the finance committee before, as a board member, whether I'm ready to say, geez, I really do support this. I think it's, right now, financially, it's the best thing to do. Because I think there are, as Sean said, I think there's a lot of moving parts to this.
And I think that, you know, that's, to bring FinCom into the room, there's been many questions that have been asked. We've done our best to answer as many questions as possible, and it's ongoing. And I think that to have, it's a subcommittee, obviously, the SelectBoard and FinCom, and I think to be able to kind of get everybody in the room together to kind of get everything on the table, then I think it will help us to really dissect this and understand where we may be going. The chief of Bolton Fire Department had come and done a presentation that was eye-opening, right? And they had just made the transition, and granted they're a smaller community than Clinton is, but to Mr. Devault's point on the quality of life, it's far, we couldn't be any further apart from where we need to be right now, right? And one example the chief had brought up was paramedics, if once they're on scene, they can provide whatever medicine is necessary to kind of help stabilize the individual as best as they can. They get them on the machine, and the machine begins reporting instantly. And so if it's a cardiac situation, they can contact ahead to whatever hospital they're going to. Those people, the cardiac unit is then waiting for them to come in, and when they come in, they hand the patient, they hand the report, and then they're right off. And
in a scenario where every moment is significant, you know, the quality of life, it's an understatement.
Well, just, Mr. Chairman, just for one question that I have, okay? Just thinking this thing through. Because of the necessity for additional medicines, equipment, obviously, you need a whole new vehicle for that, or are you going to be able to adapt the other? I mean, if you go, how do you determine if that call has to be provided by the paramedics as opposed to EMTs?
Sure, so Chief Lutz had, this last ambulance that they purchased was purchased it was set up for ALS, for paramedics. So the only thing that they would have to add on to the existing ambulance they have is a medicine lockbox, which I think the number was nominal. It was like a couple $100. And then the medicine itself is just under $3,000. So the idea would be, if it goes to ALS, there's not an EMT ambulance, there's not an ALS ambulance, it's ALS.
But I'm just saying, I think these are questions
Oh,
certainly that I
absolutely
have.
agree.
I mean, it's,
Yeah,
you know, and many more. But
absolutely right.
And during budget season, didn't the chief do like a very rough kind of outline of like an implementation process that maybe?
Correct.
And I'm also wondering too, like what needs to happen to move this forward? Like, is it a budgetary, is it an adoption by this board? Is it budgetary? Is it both? Like, what is kind of stopping us from, or what needs to be determined to move us forward? I guess I'm not sure what the path forward is.
Right, so with FinCom, and the idea of us meeting with FinCom is essentially just to kind of, again, get us together. You know, the funding is absolutely a portion of the question, but there's questions on staffing, you know, training, and the hope is that we can kind of get a list together of any questions that either board has to then be able to go through. Because right now I'm finding it comes in waves, and you know, you kind of go through your research, and then there's another group, you know, there's another set of questions that comes about, and you know, and there was even a suggestion in bringing, in the joint committee, having the chief from Bolton come back to kind of give a rundown on what his experience was in going through the transition, and they actually transitioned, they started the transition and then the pandemic hit, so it was a tough time, but you know, I think, you know, the implementation, there's a lot of questions about the implementation, and any uncertainty in being able to hire paramedics, right? There's a lot of it.
So does there need to be like kind of a like implementation plan? Like, did the Bolton Fire Department do like, we explored this, we did this, like almost like a checklist to say like, do we have the budget, do we have this, or what's our concern? Because didn't Chief Lutz say that once we started it, we had like a certain 3 years? So I don't disagree that like once we start, like the clock starts, so we should get our ducks in a row, just.
And Chief did provide, he did provide a.
Oh, he did, okay.
A
My
basic,
apologies then.
it was
Yeah.
a very, like you mentioned, a rough implementation guide, and I think that's where, you know, we could add more thoroughness to it to really help answer these questions, and I think that's where understanding the board's appetite for it, and, you know, the direction, because the amount of time that, you know, we're spending on this, to at least have an understanding of if we're heading in the right direction or not.
Mr. Chair, do you know, is there any literature for a common implementation for a program like this? Think anything exists? There must be something somewhere.
I mean,
Just could ask
Chief Lutz has he spoke to several chiefs within our immediate area that have gone through the transition.
Yeah.
And the chief from Bolton also was part of the fire department in Northborough when they began their transition, so he also saw it from that side. And then
Well,
when
just
he
because,
is-
you guys as a subcommittee have been going over this for a while, there's gonna be other members like myself that are still gonna be kind of catching up to speed. So if there's any literature or anything available out there that Chief Lutz can send to our board and to FinCom that can just spell out how this implementation would work. And then if we could, I just want to start documenting the questions and concerns that people have, just to prevent this never-ending wave of questions, so that we can just make a decision if this is something that we want to move forward on. So just at this joint meeting, I think it would be appropriate for the beginning of this meeting, the first like 10 or 15 minutes, to be a very high-level discussion of how that implementation would work. So whoever we think we have to invite to that meeting to explain that. And then we can ask our questions, and we might still have some unanswered questions at the end of that meeting, but I just want to document those questions so that we can meet again in another couple weeks. And whether we choose to do it or we choose not to do it, that's fine. It's going to be the pleasure of the board and finance committee working with us. But I just feel like we're caught in a loop where we have the fire department in here, we have discussions, it kind of sounds like we're moving in that direction, and then when we kind of check in a couple months later, we're still not even sure if we're going to move in that direction or not. So I'd like to just, spend a couple months focusing on this and make a decision. Is this something that we're going to push for or not? And so we can kind of stop wasting everyone's time with talking about it.
Fair enough. So we'd look to meet, could we do this on the 30th, November 30th, or would it be the 14th? I'm not sure if that 30th meeting is just for,
Don't know.
it's a full meeting, so
Right.
could we possibly do this on the 30th? If the board's up for it, and I can reach out to FinCom, the chair of FinCom, and Chief Lutz, and both getting everybody together, and if that schedule works with them, then
I'll be here.
Yeah,
the 30th or the 14th.
If this is, because if I know the last time we met, they talked about like kind of the first steps and like what that would cost. And if we want to get any of this into the town meeting for this year, it's going to be, if we're going to meet on this end of this year, January, or sometime in January, we're right up against it again,
Agreed. Very good. Moving on, lease of St. John's Gym update, Mr. Spivak.
Yeah, I was just curious, did we reach out? So I've just heard, I have had some communications with Father Mazzoni, and apparently there's another group that has rented or leased the gym out at least for a year. Is it Above the Rim, I think was the name of the place? And I was just curious, did our request make it? Because I know we had a meeting and we were going to request to lease it. And I know it takes us, probably a month before we can get our ducks in a row to give the money. And this group probably could just give them money after a phone call. So maybe that was part of it. But did we ever formally reach out to St. John's and request renting the gym?
We did. The day after the board meeting, I met with Father Mazzoni for the afternoon, and we went over a lot of different things. So I indicated the town and the board's interest in wanting to.
Mr. Chair, just to catch people up at home, not to interrupt you, Mike, but we didn't do this in open session. It was an executive session. So if people are going back and looking at meetings, because they are on TV, we didn't discuss this in open session, nor did we take any vote. So it's in the meeting, minutes, but Michael caught us up on some negotiations behind the scenes, and that's what we're talking about. So just so people at home know.
Right. Thank you.
I apologize.
Yeah, thank you. So just wanted to, again, reiterate the town's interest, however, asking if we could have time for due diligence. Because in, going through this process, we don't have an appropriation. So we need to go to town meeting for an appropriation. We'd have to go through RFP process in order to indicate that we're looking for space. We can't just do a one-on-one transaction. So I said we really needed some time, probably several months, in order to come up with a plan. He indicated that after he had reached out to the town, that there was another entity that expressed interest, and that they were willing to meet his requirements, because the requirements that we were negotiating were ones that were brought forward by Father Mazzoni. And he said that his intent on reaching out to the town was to help the town, but also to bring in revenue for the church and to pay bills of that gym. So, and that was over the summer. So then in the meantime, this other group came in, and when I met with them to ask for more time, in that period, they had gotten notice that utility rates were going to be going up. So they were getting even more nervous about being able to have the funding to pay their bills. So I said, well, I want to leave with you our interest. It's a decision that you have to make as to what you're going to do, but that we would be very interested. So he indicated that whatever he would do down the road, it would be no more for a year, no long-term commitments, so that that if he did go with one entity or the other, that there would be an opportunity to revisit it again after we go to town meeting. So that's how we kind of left it. And then anecdotally, I had people approaching me asking what the decision was, so I reached out to Father Mazzoni just for confirmation, and I'm awaiting that response, so I haven't heard back from him yet on that. So I don't know for sure that he's released it, or definite, or how long, or to who, or whatever.
Okay.
There was that group that you mentioned that was
Yeah.
the one that was interested. So, so whether they're doing it month to month, for 6 months, a year, I don't know. But he said he wouldn't do anything less than, if they were going to go forward, anything less than what he was discussing with the town. So he wasn't
Yeah.
going to look to just take the, first deal. He was really looking, he had a number that he was looking for when he approached us, and that he wouldn't do anything less than that. So, so I'm waiting to hear back if that has happened, and whether or not then, if the board is still interested, whether we could start that process in the spring, so we can go through RFP and put a budget number together for a town meeting in order to have those negotiations then next summer, when and if that is a lease that's ongoing, whether that lease ends. So,
Right.
And I don't know, again, there was, whether this is a interim gap for this other organization, or
Right.
whether it's something they were looking for long-term. I wasn't privy to what they were looking for. I was talking on Father Mazzoni as to what he offered the town, and he was going to hold those same terms to
Sure.
anyone that would go in there,
Right.
other than the town, if it wasn't the town. So,
Okay, so if we were interested in moving forward, it would have to have conversations with them about when the current,
Lease or,
yeah.
yeah.
arrangement, whatever that
Arrangement,
current
right,
arrangement
runs
is,
out.
what
And
the
I
terms
wouldn't,
of that is.
and from all I've heard from, that this is a good group, and people from town like it, so the last thing we want to do, if a private group is kind of accommodating the needs of the town and providing a service using the gym, I think that's great. So even if, I think it'd be worth maybe talking to St. John's about if, when this lease is up, can the town still play some role, and is there, maybe there's opportunity where the above the rim could still utilize it for a percentage of time, and then the town could have, could utilize it for other times, for different events, Parks and Rec, youth basketball practice, whatever. Maybe we should have those conversations to set up what's going to happen for the next year.
Right, and Father Mazzoni expressed that,
Okay.
that if there was an opportunity to have a dual use, or if the town, still had needs, that he wants to help the town as well. He's looking primarily for revenue for his bills for the parish.
Sure.
But also he wants to help a community need as well, too. And this group, which struck his interest as well, because they're a nonprofit, so they're, they're helping youths and inner city, kids to try to help them, and so that, kind of, meant a lot to him too. So he wasn't just looking to go out for the first entity to give him money. He wanted to make sure that, that it was something that would be a mission that they could support, but if he was going to pick them over the town, that it wasn't because he was just trying to get somebody to give him a bag of money. He was really trying to make those goals, but also trying to help the community as well too. So I don't think this group has exclusive access if they, however long they're there, even while they're there, because the church had carve-outs that they were using it for too. And there's periods of time, I think, that he was intimating to me that there were periods of time they were using it for, not, 24/7. So,
Right.
so I think he was very open to dual use, but also if the town was still interested, still talking with the town, in 2023, if there was something that, if this group was only there for a short period, just till they found, because they were being evicted, so they needed something right away. So if they were looking for a permanent home, then he's looking for someone to backfill that. So
Yeah.
again, so these are questions I don't have all the answers to, but I did, after that meeting, I did have, we met for about 2 hours and kind of really walked through everything and stated our position, and I, got a better understanding of his position. And he did have other interests, so he had to make that decision, and I haven't spoken to him as to what he decided or didn't decide, and if they are using it, is it locked in for a lease, is it a short-term, long-term thing, I don't know. So
Okay.
I'll try to get more information on that, and like I said, I'm awaiting his reply, so I hope to hear from him.
All right, no, that's fine. I think as a board, we should just kind of keep those lines of communication open just to ensure that as much as possible, because it's a great resource for the town, just to make sure that, there is some access from the community and different youth organizations. So anything we can do moving forward, working with the church to see if we can carve out some usage of that space, I think would just be beneficial to everybody. So that's something we can just kind of keep moving. Next time we talk to them, we can talk to the church about how this would look, moving forward after this, whatever the length of this current occupant, the terms of their agreement are up. Is there opportunity for the town to also use part of that time as well?
Yep, no, absolutely, and, but also then there's, and I expressed to them as well too, then there's the long-term picture as well
Sure.
too. There's been rumors that they may be looking to sell that property, so, initially when Mr. Kerrigan was chair, we approached Father Mazzoni and let him know the town had interest. There was no specifics or nothing that we discussed, but just to know that if things down the road start happening, that the town, please contact us. And I reiterated that again as well too. So if there is a long-term plan that they're going to look to sell the property, that's something we want to be part of that conversation.
Right, and hopefully we can have an honest conversation with them, because if they do choose to go in a different direction, and say they choose to sell it to a developer or whatever, I think then we have to kind of consider what are our options to make sure that we have enough, capacity for youth sports in the wintertime. Because I know that gym gets a lot of use, and if that gym's going to be going away, how are we going to accommodate all the other youth sports in town? So the sooner we can, have some of these conversations with them and get an idea, on the fork in the road, which way they're going, it'll help us out, kind of figure out how we're going to handle it.
Mr. Chair, just in Michael's defense, this has been a very fluid situation, to say the least. So I have no doubt that any of the discussions weren't anything but honest at the time. So it's been shifting sands for several years, and I think our best bet is to make sure that communication lines are open. I have no doubt they are, but it's been frustrating at times, just because we thought we had a pretty good idea of what was going on, and it's, again, up to the parish to decide what they want to do with that property. But to try and get your hands around this has been a challenge, to say the least. So let's just keep communication lines open, and hopefully when people understand what they want to do with it, we've got our place in line. But yet, it's not for lack of trying, because we've had several chairs, I think, have sat down, and several board members at least, to try and figure out how we can facilitate what's best for the town. And at a certain point, I think it's up to the parish to figure out what they want first. So hopefully, to be continued for sure.
And I know that the parish plans have been changing, as you mentioned, Ms. Carey. Keep changing as well too. So I think they're trying to determine what their long-range plan is. I don't think they have one right now as of today, but maybe tomorrow they will, and that's where we don't want to miss that opportunity. You know, that's where I think the most concern is. So whether, you know, what's the strategy is to, you know, I'm talking, you know, not executive session, but what's the strategy of how we pursue that? You know, do we just keep communication open, or do we ask for formal meetings, you know, so that's something we got to think about, you know?
I mean, just as a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, maybe it might be in the best interest of the town to send a formal letter saying that, you know, our intention is that if in the future, you know, we would like to be considered first in line for this because we feel it's an important asset to the town. And I think I can think of many uses that the town could utilize that 8.5 acres of property, or how many ever, isn't it close to 8.5?
8.6, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Is there a motion?
yeah, I'll make it a form of a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Questions?
Great idea.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good?
Good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Community television coverage of municipal meetings, Mr. Devo.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just mine. I mean,
No,
is-
it's not, but
This is something we all talked about at the last meeting. Yeah, I mean, I would like to keep this kind of on the radar. I don't know if we have to do it every meeting, but maybe at least every other meeting, just to constantly stay in contact. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the will of our board is really not to impose the filming of these meetings, although there's really no legal basis to prevent the filmings, but this really was supposed to be an initiative that was embraced by the other boards, so there's some reluctance. So I think our position is to just continue to communicate and try to kind of sell some of these other boards on the benefits of filming the meetings and civic engagement and allowing more people to see what goes on in these meetings. So I think it would be a good idea to just keep this on the agenda a couple times, maybe possibly visit some of these other boards and have conversations with them. And the only thing I would insist, though, is that while we have these conversations, I think we kind of forget to do this with the Council on Aging. I think we should kind of insist for just a reason why the boards are opposed, above and beyond just, we don't want to do it. Because that kind of seems to be the message that, whether formally or informally, we've received from other boards is, we're a separate board, we don't owe anything to you guys, and we don't want to do it, and that's that. And that's fine, but I think the taxpayers might deserve a better explanation. There could be an explanation, there could be a reason why that they don't want to get filmed that we're all aware of, so I don't want to think that that's part of the reason why we're not like saying that this is something that we think should happen. This is something that we want other boards to agree on and to also think that it's a good idea. So yeah, I mean, if open it up to the rest of the board how you guys feel, but I just think we should keep this on the agenda moving forward and just try to proactively. I mean, I'd be more than willing to attend, like go to a Council on Aging meeting and speak to some of the members. Maybe just that one-on-one dialogue of answering some questions. Maybe there's some concerns that just haven't been raised to us, that if we could answer the questions, it would alleviate some of those concerns and people would feel more comfortable about it. But I strongly feel, and we talked about building up the content on the public access channel, and our director of the public access channel, Mark McKim, has done such a great job. And the kind of the initial pillars of the foundation were going to be high school athletics and municipal meetings. And I think we've done a really good job with the high school athletics, along with Greenlight Studios. It's an excellent product. People are really excited about it. And we're kind of trying to now get into the municipal meetings portion of it. So I just think we keep this as a discussion topic and just continue the dialogue, find out what some of the concerns are. what some of the real reasons are, above and beyond, we just don't want to do it. So let's just see if we can hear some concerns, and hopefully we can address some of them, and we'll just kind of keep plugging along.
So, as mentioned at the last meeting, Parks and Recreation has, they've started filming their meetings. Their last meeting that they held was on November 9th. And I believe this was just uploaded within the last day or so. They have 155 views.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was showing my kids something on YouTube, because when we tape the meetings, for everybody watching at home, it ends up on YouTube too, so you can watch it over and over again. And Parks and Rec came up, and I clicked on it and watched it while I was making them dinner. We got to get those guys bumped up a time slot for Sweep Week, I'm telling you. I'm not joking. So if you haven't seen Parks and Rec, please tune in.
Is that the only board that's filming?
That is the only other board that is filming aside from us. FinCom did respond that they would be willing to film their budget meetings, but that was the extent of their willingness.
I trust that these boards are going to come around.
Yeah.
Everyone's nervous at first. No one, again, is doing this to get famous or to be in the spotlight. But I think that once the anxiety or nervousness of it is overcome, I'm sure we'll be able to bring some more boards and committees into the fold.
Yeah, I kind of feel in a similar way. I feel like we should just make it an annual request when the new boards come on, when new people are, we should just make it an annual request and say we are interested in getting these meetings on our cable channel and YouTube. These are the reasons why. It's up for you to decide. I would just, personally, I know everyone comes in here and says, you can come to any meeting, but let's be frank, there's just not enough hours in the day to attend every municipal meeting or board meeting. So in looking at like agendas and minutes, I think Chairman Kovas mentioned when the Council on Aging came in, like some of them are kind of vague, so you don't really know. And then also, when I asked how to get a hold of minutes, they said you can't. So I would love for just there to be some avenue to get information, whether it's a more baked out agenda or minutes posted to the website. I don't know if that's just people are not interested in doing that, or there's a technical issue there, or film them something, but there are some Council on Aging agendas available now. There's probably like 2 in the last year. If you scroll down the agenda center, there really isn't any aside from our board. I know the school committee, I think, is diligent about posting theirs. I think you can find Parks and Rec on their Parks and Rec website. You gotta dig a bit. It's
And
challenging.
ultimately, going through the redesign of the website, even if the boards or commissions are posting them on their website, they should still be putting them here, right? I mean, you
would
have
think, yeah.
both avenues, but I think, if you look on YouTube alone, all the municipalities around us are doing this, and we don't have the luxury of having a daily item that would report on any town business day to day, right? And so to have the capability of being able to bring meetings to people and to inform people what's taking place within town government, and to basically not be receptive to doing that it's discouraging, because at the end of the day, it's an open meeting, it's a public meeting, and even though these votes are being taken by some of the boards, I don't see the function of that vote, because you really can't keep someone from recording a public meeting anyhow. So hopefully, to the point brought up, maybe we can go to the meetings, maybe we can get some feedback as exactly what the issue is, or the concerns are, and then begin to address those, but.
Mr. Chair, at the end of the day, not to beat a dead horse, we should be finding more ways to engage with the public, better ways to engage with the public, like turn over every stone. I mean, we're up here talking about how can we advertise for openings on boards and committees? How can we get more people involved? And we're on TV every other week, so that's just the thing. I long for the day when this is a non-discussion, because it shouldn't be a discussion. We should be looking at every tool possible, and to say that, oh, well, our meetings are posted, you can wander in whenever you want, I think it's just, it's a dereliction of your duty as a public servant. And I'm sure the more people who understand about our struggle will come to our side, and at a certain point, if it takes something on Election Day, or people writing emails to the Council on Aging, or to whatever board you think should be on TV, please do so, because we're only 5 people here, and ultimately it's going to be your voice that decides what's happened, because you're the one we're trying to serve. We're public servants. We talk about customer service. We're public servants. We're spending your money, and I think you deserve to know how that money is being spent, what votes are being taken, the deliberation that's being taken before those votes, and it's the very least, the literal least we can do is to use every tool in our toolbox to get our message out to you. So, again, the horse has been beaten pretty good here, but this is an easy one, and we're really messing it up.
Very good. Any other discussion on that? Moving on, board and committee appointments, Council on Aging terms. Did we have any luck with the Council on Aging terms?
I haven't found anything. I don't want to put solicitor on the spot here, but I know we were discussing trying to find what was there, the enabling warrant article that created the Council on Aging here in Clinton did not state terms. There was never any terms posted for those boards, like from that point forward. So in all the town reports before I came here, there was never any term listed, and there was no, they weren't listed in the list of committees and boards and committees. They were only listed in their actual report that they submitted. So when I came, I started putting them in the list of boards and committees, but I didn't have any terms, so I just list the members. So I haven't been able to find anything. Whether the town, if it's not stated, can the town create terms if it's not stated in the...
Yeah, I think one thing we need to do, I put it on my to-do list, I think we need to have we don't have a bylaw for the Council on Aging. Under the statute, we really should. This statute was approved by the town meeting back in 1966 or something. That's when the Council on Aging got created, and that's where it defined how many members it could have. But there was no bylaw created after that, so we probably should have a bylaw. Maybe put on the next annual town meeting where we set forth the term. But we can define that term in the bylaw. But even now, I think we have to do that. We have to come up with a term and come up with and stagger those terms as the board sees fit. No one's done that over the years. But I think if we do that now, the board does that now, we definitely should follow up with a bylaw at the next annual. Come up with a bylaw for the Council on Aging. Really, it should exist, and it does exist.
Mr. Chair, so what do we get? We've got 7? So what is that? 2, 2, and 3 for 3-year terms? I mean, how do you break up a 7-person board? Right. Can we just ask them to pick, or pick names out of a hat? It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I defer to them if they want to sort things out, but this shouldn't be that difficult.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I don't want to speak for the board, but I think there are members on the board that are open to that think there should be terms, that there should be some defined terms and not just open-ended, so.
That's nice.
This isn't really like an option, right? I mean, we have to have terms.
It's not.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I know, I thought that was a mistake on that. It's like, there's no terms.
And even within the statute, I think there's flexibility in the select board can appoint up no less than 2 and up to 5 members on that board. And I think, maybe that's where that bylaw, if that should be defined.
Yeah, I mean, the the statute from 1966, or the article that was approved, I think you can have up to 11 members. The Board of Selectmen definitely appoints the chair, and then three,
We do?
additional 3 up to 5 members, I think. But you think about it, the intent, I think, was if you had a board of 11, then the Board of Selectmen would appoint a total of 5. And if you had a board 7, so I think with the 7 members, I think the board appoints the chair, and then 3 others. The way the statute.
How do the others get on there? I'm sorry.
The chair picks them, all right?
Yeah, the chair.
So we
is-
appoint the chair. Okay, that's news to me.
You appoint the chair, and you also, in the way this, with the 7.
Because I see 2
members,
co-chairs here.
And
I didn't
appoint-
appoint either of them.
And appoint 3 other members.
Okay. Oh,
So on a 7-member board, the select board would appoint essentially the majority, and then,
The way that's written now.
understood.
So right now, as it sits, nobody has a term. Because we can't find anything that says anyone has a term. So we're gonna have to appoint people and define the terms. And
I think we have to
possibly
define the terms.
in a bylaw to make it permanent, but, right? I mean, am I thinking of this incorrectly?
When do we have to define the terms first?
Yeah,
I mean, I think the intent would be to have a bylaw that follows it, where we'd actually, so a board, years from now, not facing the same issue, we have a bylaw that says terms are gonna be, whatever, they're gonna be 3 years, whatever we decide to have them. And you'd have, how they're staggered. But by then, I think we have to address it now, though, too, before the town meeting.
So how do we address this before the town meeting without the bylaw? Like,
Yeah,
what would be your suggestion?
I think we'd have to lay it out, someone would have to lay it out on the council, come up with a proposal of how they want to stagger these, whose terms are what right now.
Okay.
So I don't think anyone's looked at that. We have to lay out the
No,
7
yeah.
positions, right, and determine.
And I don't know if it needs a motion, but we should probably have town council just review exactly what the select board's role is. Because I have heard similar things that you mentioned about appointing no less than 2, no more than 5, whatever, but find out exactly.
It's literally a paragraph.
Okay.
That's all that governs.
Okay.
So that's it.
I guess we don't need to. I guess
Yeah.
if we could just, can you email that out to us so we can,
Yeah,
okay.
I think some of you have it. I'll send it out to all of you tomorrow.
Thank you.
It's a 1966 article.
Does
And there's
every
been no-
board
And there's
have?
been no amendments, no bylaws. That's it. That's the only governing article for the Council on Aging.
Okay, yeah, so we'll
Does
address it.
does each board have a paragraph? Does each board have a paragraph that outlines their
No,
charter?
this just happened to be back, this is Article 24 from the 1966 town meeting
Okay.
when the town of Clinton established the Council on Aging.
Okay,
But there was no bylaw created after that.
Okay.
I know, I'm just looking at this list and it's like, some have 7, some have 5, some have 7, I don't understand this.
Some are statutorily, some are bylaws, some are, like this
So
one's
some are
just as a warrant article for the Council on
Okay.
Aging. So there are different enabling authorizations that created different boards. So
And those are in the bylaws?
some of them are, not all. Some of them are in state law, some are in bylaws, this one is just a warrant article, so it's not a
Yeah, okay,
bylaw. So
yeah, this is,
So we'd have to determine, we'd have to go back and look for each one, what the enabling authority was to create each of these boards. So,
That bylaw's on the website, on the Council on Aging Board page.
Oh, perfect. Saves us time.
Well, I don't think there's much meat to it, right? All right.
Okay, moving on.
So then, board and committee appointments, there were a few letters that were received by people interested in being considered for a position.
Do we have the boards in the people that wrote the letters?
It was in the informational packet.
Gotcha.
You want me to read it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, if you just refresh my memory.
Mr. John Busno had expressed consideration for the Clinton zoning board. Deborah Goodsell expressed interest in the historical commission. And Jolisa Chenard had expressed reappointment on the personnel board.
Mr. Chair, I'm also seeing a list of other people.
Yeah, you're right. I was just getting, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
You got it. No, you're right, because and then Mr. Ward had spoke to individuals that did express interest in being reappointed. Cindy Buffton to the Board of Registrars, Rebecca Longval, Conservation Commission, David Crowell, Conservation Commission, Robert Latini, Zoning Board of Appeals, Jolisa Chenard, Personnel Board, Jan Rosicki, Commission on Disability, Lisa Philbin, Cultural Council, Patty O'Malley, Cultural Council, Wendy Williams, Cultural Council, and Robert Latini, Weeks Fund Trustees. And that was the list.
Just one thing to keep in mind, and this is totally the pleasure of the board, this is just my personal, if we can in the future get away from one person being on multiple boards, I just think it kind of goes against civic engagement, like that we want to try to get as many people in the community involved as possible. So if we do have an abundance of applicants, I would just prefer, and you know, everyone make their own decision, but I would rather we lean towards filling these boards with new people versus having one person serving on 3 or 4 different boards. I respect the people's time that they want to devote to this, but I just don't think that's the intent of how these boards were formulated. I think we want to get more of a diverse kind of cross-section of the community.
Mr. Chair, I'm not opposed to the idea. At what point do we, would we ask them if they had to choose? Would we defer to them? Or like if there was someone who was on 2 boards and we're saying, well, we're gonna, you gotta pick one. Will we ask them or would we make that decision? Because I know we have a thin bench, but I'd rather not, I don't know, I'd rather put something, I'm looking down the list, or down the agenda to our Light Up Town Hall draft view policy. That's gorgeous to me, in that it's very clear in that, like, what we're going to be doing. And so, I don't know, just to protect us and to give more clarity to people who are interested in serving, I don't know, I'd love to maybe codify that if that's really what we want to do. Just so it takes a lot of the guesswork out for me, because I don't know what these people, if they really like one job and they do another one because, you know,
I think that the least we could do is if we come to a position where we have an applicant for an open position on a board, and you have another applicant that also is serving on other boards, I would have no problem with asking them which one, you know, prioritize the boards that they really want to serve on,
Yeah.
and do it that way. I think that's only fair.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, just to let the public know as well, there's still
Plenty of
many
vacancies.
vacancies that are open that we didn't get any interest for, so we still need conservation and
We should have had a table at volunteer.
Disability Commission and Historical Commission, and there's still a lot more, Cultural Council, so there's still a number of boards that there's vacancies that we don't have people putting in.
Yeah, I think this advertising should be an ongoing initiative. Maybe it's something we can speak to the Assistant Town Administrator about, maybe engaging on some social media platforms or something to try to drum up a little bit more response for some of these boards, for applicants. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, because if we could find those platforms, that wouldn't be as costly, because putting in the item every week, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yep.
We do that probably usually twice a year, but that can run into the several hundreds of dollars per ad, so.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and it's probably more effective on social media these days too.
Yeah.
But I would caution, I mean, people are very busy, and it's hard to get people to volunteer their times.
I agree with that.
So, you know, you don't want to, I think, set a position that you can only, you know, serve on one board, and then you get yourself in a pickle that you don't have a quorum to conduct business.
Yeah, I don't think,
That's a good
if
point.
there's no other applicants, I don't have a problem with people serving on multiple boards. I think it just comes into if a term is up and there's other people interested, that's, and that's gonna be on us to advertise, to make sure we get a lot of applicants. Are we open to taking motions for, like, recommendations for appointments? Because I would like to, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint John Busno to the Clinton Zoning Board.
There's a second.
Mr. Chair, I guess this is one where I'm confused, because we
Yeah.
have, someone's expressed interest in being reappointed, so is that one where
Right.
we're, I don't know, the letter I saw was, no one can question Mr. Busnow's commitment to the town. I just don't know much about his zoning policy, and based on the letter is a one-sentence letter, so I'd love to know more before I dump somebody off who's been serving on the zoning board of appeals. I'd love to know more about what, I don't know, that's just where I am, I'm just.
Yeah,
No, I understand that, but I think that it's also there, we have to change our mentality and how we view, your term expires. So at the end of your 3 years, you're not on there unless you're reappointed, right?
Right.
And there has been this period of rollovers where now it seems like it's your position until you decide that you don't want to be a part of it. So.
Yeah, but if you're an
So if
active
there's a-
participant and you go to all the meetings and you've served on that board and you've proven that you're an asset to that board, why would you be against reappointing them? I mean, I don't think anybody has ever taken the position that I know of, that that's their position and they don't want anybody else to have it.
I
I
guess
think
that's
this
the
is the
question.
goodness of your,
I guess for me, like, this person is, the other person whose term is expiring has expressed interest, but I don't know anything. I mean, I'm assuming he's been attending meetings and whatnot, I don't know for sure.
I know he's been on that board for years.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to hear,
Yeah, if they
to
wanna-
hear from both of them. Again,
Or
just seeing
if
what's
there's
happened
two
recently in neighboring communities regarding zoning, I just, with all due respect to other committees on here, that's one that's important to me, and that I just want to make sure we're getting zoning right, and that it's an important part of what we're trying to do in this town, at least what I'm trying to do. So again, I'm not voting, I'm not picking either one of them, I just don't know, I'd just love to know.
I guess the question is, like, if there's two people interested, now what?
Okay, well, I would say if there's two people interested, if one of the two people is serving on multiple boards, we should reach out to them and ask them if they have any preference on a particular board, because if there's one person that's serving on 3 boards, and there's another person that's interested in serving on one of those boards, I think the fair thing is to give the position to another person, so that we have more people serving, a better diverse group of people serving on the boards that we appoint. So that would be to Selectman Kerrigan's suggestion about, how do we handle, if people are on multiple boards, how would we handle that? I think that this would be a good case to start and say, what boards are people more interested on if they're serving on multiple boards? Because that's a big part of, I think, how we should start thinking moving forward. So what do we do here? We got 2 people, 1 position, and what do we want to do? How do we want to move forward? Table it until we have a chance to sleep on it?
I mean.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
again, speaking for myself, I just need to know, if we're taking, I have no problem with the way the ZBA is working now, so if we're going to be changing up that makeup, I'd love to know how we're changing it.
Sounds
So
good.
then should we just start bringing in anybody who's interested, just start bringing them in and they can kind of make their pitch to us? Is that the alternative?
I don't know, if you're interested in serving and it's a tie, like, I wouldn't mind hearing why, again, And I mean, no disrespect to anyone here, especially someone who's served on this board and has proven his dedication to the town, but I would love to hear more than I'm applying for the open position on the Clinton ZBA. I would love to hear more.
What did you hear from the other, from
Well,
the
he's been
current?
doing the job. And I like the way the
So then-
zoning board's been doing their work.
So then maybe we should also start considering having even people who want to be considered for reappointments, sending in a brief statement,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
I
that's,
think
There's no problem with that at all. I'm saying,
because I think it's hard,
I just don't think that and just shaking things up to put someone new on there just because they're new makes things better.
no, you're increasing civic engagement.
Right, and I'm against having one person serving on multiple boards if there's other people interested in serving on those boards. That's what,
And
that's,
I agree in principle, I like the zoning is very important to me, and I would love to know if you're gonna be on the zoning board of appeals, how you feel about our zoning board, like our zone, you know, our zoning code, anything, just give me something to work with, like,
all right, well, why don't we just table it until we figure out how we're gonna move forward on this? 'Cause
Sure.
I don't think we're gonna figure it out tonight.
okay.
So, all right, so we'll table, do you want to withdraw your motion, or you?
Well, it just dies, it wasn't seconded.
Okay. And then, Historical Commission. I think they even have vacancies. That was
Yeah,
Deborah
that's-
Goodsall.
There's two vacancies.
Two.
2 vacancies?
I've got one expiring this year and one
Yeah.
expiring in 2024.
We're not. Oh, yeah, there's 2 vacancies, okay.
One person interested.
So we still got another vacancy.
So,
So she would take over and get one that expires in 2025.
sounds good.
I'll make that
Yeah,
motion.
there are 2 vacancies, Mr. Chair, and the 2 people that are up this year, I didn't hear from them. I didn't
Oh.
get, response
So
from them.
this
So
may be
these are the
fourth.
people that I did get contact from, the people that are on.
So it'd
the
be
list.
Krista Dechnowski
And McLaughlin,
and
yep. sorry,
Sean
I'm bad here,
McLaughlin.
yep.
Their term expired in 2022,
And we haven't heard
and you
back.
weren't able to connect with them on if they're
Right, I
interested in
wasn't
staying or
able to
not.
connect. I'm not saying they're not interested, I wasn't able to connect with them. So those 2, plus there's 2 vacancies where that board's not full, so.
When do they meet again? Do we know?
So how,
Just to
so
know if
to
that
your
was a
point,
good
how
time
about
to try to connect.
we appoint one to one of the vacancies, just one of the,
Yeah.
Well, how about the 22, I'll move that we appoint Deborah Goodsall to the vacant seat that expired this year, and I guess will expire again in 2025. Historical Commission, that is.
is that 23, 24, 25, yeah. All right, so that's a
I'll second, as
second.
long as it's the only other board she serves on.
Well, does it count that is she a member of the Council on Aging? I don't know.
No, she's
I
an employee.
don't think so.
Oh, yeah, that's true, right, okay, yeah, so second with no reservations.
Any questions, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I just want to mention the Historical Commission, according to our website, meets at 3:30 quarterly, first Monday, and December is the next one. So I don't know if there's opportunity to check in with those 2 folks there
Check and see, I
Maybe.
don't know if they've met for a while.
before Barch comes around.
Yeah.
There's a window.
For the Conservation Commission, should we reappoint
Yeah, I move
that
that
just because of, if,
Quorum.
yeah, quorum?
Yeah, I would move that we reappoint Rebecca Longville and David Crowell to 3-year terms on the Conservation Commission.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Sorry, can I just confirm this? I've got Cowell over here and Crowell over here.
I'm sorry, I think it's Cowell.
Okay.
Cowell, yeah. I'm
My
sorry.
apologies. Using his correct name, please.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board of Registry.
And again, just to reiterate, there is a vacancy.
There's still a
there.
vacancy on that, and they do a lot of important work too.
See the pattern?
I would move that we reappoint Cindy Buffton to the Board of Registrars for a 3-year term.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Commission on Disability has 2 vacancies.
I would move that we reappoint Jan Rusecki to a 3-year term on the Commission on Disability.
I'll second.
Any questions, discussion?
We have 2 vacancies from, further on that. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye. I would move that we reappoint Lisa Philbin, Patty O'Malley, and Wendy Williams to the 3-year terms on the Cultural Council. Or, sorry, Michael, are there, because I think my neighbor was on there, are there term limits on that?
The state has term limits on them,
Okay.
yeah.
So
I
do we
think
know-
I'm not sure on how long Lisa Philbin's been on, but I know the other 2, Patty O'Malley and Wendy Williams, they're new. They're fairly new.
Okay.
Lisa Philbin might be in her 2nd term, so that's something. But the state requires that they only serve 2 terms and then be off and then get back on after a year. So.
Hat tip to the state for making that easy on us. For the Cultural Commission. Well, yeah, then make these reappointments subject to any state term limits that might supersede it. And there's also 2 vacancies on that, if you're interested.
Is there a second in there?
Second.
Second. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Robert Latini, he is the only member on the Weeks Fund trustee, and there's 2 vacancies, so.
Can I ask what that is?
What's the
What is
Weeks
that?
Fund?
Weeks Fund
Yeah, that just
trustee?
oversees the expenditure of, there was money that was given in a will from George Weeks to the town for specific purposes. And then this committee just oversees to make sure the money is spent according to that will bequeath.
So,
So is a quorum 1 for that committee?
Yeah, I don't think they've been able. they
That
haven't
one
been able to
person is
meet
deciding?
without- Yeah, they haven't been able to.
Oh,
meet.
okay.
That costing us money?
Yeah, well, the money is there, it's just being able to allocate it, a lot of times they'll, buy things for the school
Yeah.
or other things like that, different ways that they use the money, so they haven't been able to, give out any money, but it's still there and gaining interest, so.
is
Okay.
there any?
Somebody sign up for the Weeks Fund
I know.
trustees.
Is there
Might be the
any
best committee.
restrictions from a select board member serving on there?
I don't know, probably would defer to.
But there's, one of the Weeks funds, we're in the process of getting that transferred down to, so it would fall under this, the Holden Memorial under their programs, because
Okay.
there's about, it's been inactive. There's an account with maybe like $40,000+, maybe closer to 50, that's just been sitting there, hasn't been used. It's in the bank. And the trustees, there were trustees, and then they, some of the trustees died, some got reappointed. Bob Latini is one of the, he might be the only remaining trustee. But I've been working with the AG's office because the AG got involved because this thing's been so inactive. They asked about it, and it made sense to do away with the Weeks Institute and have that money turned over to another, something like the Holden Memorial, who runs similar type programs that Mr. Weeks wanted under his will. The AG office has to be involved. You can't just get rid of a trust. So they're on board, and we've been filing some follow-up pleadings with the court to have that done. Because otherwise, this money's been sitting stagnant for quite a few years.
Well,
Right, but that Weeks Institute it's a separate,
It's two.
bequeathed by the will by George Weeks, so that's not town money, that's in a bank account that has trustees, but the trustees have all passed away, so now that's where town solicitor got involved to help kind of activate that again, but those aren't town appointments, that money's not in town accounts, that's all private, nonprofit situation.
I mean,
Then there was a donation to the town, which is overseen by these trustees, which is a smaller amount, it's not $50,000, it's much
I
smaller.
mean, I would be open to serving on that, however temporary it would be until it's transferred, just so
Yeah,
There's
but
a
again,
quorum.
but that's different.
Yeah,
We
Michael's
wouldn't
right,
have-
there's a separate account too.
This would be looking for appointment for the town money, not for that one. That one,
Oh.
that one's being handled through the Attorney General's office. This is different, so.
All right, so
So the only
then,
question was, would a select board member be able to serve on our weeks?
I'd have to look at the governing, how that was even established. I'm not aware of any restrictions.
Okay.
I'd have to take a look at that.
I mean,
So if you would ask town solicitor to look into it, and if it's good, then we can report back to the board that
Yep.
the chair would be able to serve.
Yeah, have him make a motion. It's
sounds good.
kosher.
So at the very least, we can reappoint Mr. Latini, right?
Yeah, so moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we're tabling that one, we're tabling that one. And then, so that leaves the personnel board. I know we talked about revisiting, personnel board appointments.
Right, I know, we discussed that. I know we had a quick discussion on the bylaws and some different interpretations of it. I mean, due to my interpretation of the bylaws, stating only one member of the personnel board should be a town employee, I'd make a motion that we vacate the spot on the personnel board currently held by Mary Rose and open it up to new applicants.
I object to that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's a second. Any discussion or questions?
Well, I object to it because I don't see it that way. I mean, that's not the way it reads. I don't know how you interpret it that way. And I would defer to, I guess, to the.
Yeah, if you read that, it says a full-time employee. No member of the Board of Selectmen is a full-time employee. When that was written, I think it was a citizen's petition, but the intent was, it was, at the time, the town treasurer, the town clerk, the assessor, they were all full-time employees, they're elected. So that's what that was put in there, you have to be a full-time elected employee. So the Board of Selectmen, no member up here considers himself a full-time elected employee, because you aren't.
The spirit of that law is to maintain that the 4 members of that personnel board are traditional members of the personnel board, and then you have 1 member as an employee member. Currently, right now, we have a appointed employee on that board and an elected member on that board. So the technicality of full-time versus part-time doesn't really,
Ed, I
Lady.
respectfully disagree.
yeah.
The
well,
word
I-
full-time is put in there for a reason. It didn't say employee. It said full-time elected employee. No member of this Board of Selectmen is a full-time elected employee. There is an employee that serves on that committee right now, but.
Well, if we're gonna go down this rabbit hole, where does it say that
Miss
we're?
Dickow, can I finish, please?
Sure.
But Miss Dickow is not a full-time elected employee, so.
I am
if
a
this board wants to
taxpayer.
take if this board wants to take that vote to say that she's no longer a member of the personnel board, she'll be entitled to a hearing. You can't, you know what I mean? And I'm just advising the board that the argument's gonna be that she's not a full-time elected employee, and she isn't.
And I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm fine with having that. I'm fine with having that hearing. I mean, that's the main reason. There's other secondary reasons why I think it's appropriate that Mrs. Dickow should be off that
The
person.
language that was enacted is the language. It says full-time elected employee.
But is it stated anywhere that the select board is considered a part-time or full-time elected official?
But you're not no member of this board is a full-time employee. When that was, but Mr. Chair, when that was enacted, there's not a lot of full-time elected employees. Now there's even fewer, but at that time, you had the town treasurer who had just gone, it was a full-time, now it's not elected. You had the town treasurer, you had the board of assessors, the chair of the board of assessors, the town clerk. They were all full-time elected employees. That was what that was meant to cover, not the board of selectmen.
I respectfully disagree, and I'd be more than happy to move forward with the hearing if we think that we need one. Because, I mean, there's other reasons, there's behavioral issues that happened during her term on the board that's secondary to the bylaw issue that I would be more than happy to discuss at the hearing. No
If this
problem.
board wants to remove a member from the personnel board, you can certainly send out a letter in doing that, and that employee, and that individual on that board is gonna be entitled to a hearing.
I don't have a problem with that, and I'd be fine with the results of the hearing.
Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
All right.
I guess I would officially ask for a hearing.
Did the board vote to send a letter?
Wait, say it again, did the board vote to send a letter?
You're gonna send
A letter
well,
notifying.
Is that what you're gonna do, is that the board vote to send a letter removing it?
The motion was to vacate the position and entertain applications to fill the position, so if
When you
I
say
have-
vacate the position, you're really removing
Correct.
Correct.
a specific individual.
Exactly,
And I might say, my term isn't even up this year.
right.
So do we need do we need a motion to send a letter?
Yeah, I think you should have.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we send a letter detailing what we just discussed.
Any discussion? There be none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll wait to hear on the rest of that. Anything else under appointments and,
Julie Sishnard. And there's another term that's open on the personnel board.
Well, I might add, my term was not open.
Sorry, there is a term that's open on the personnel board. I apologize. Bill, I'll move that we reappoint Julie Sishnard to a 3-year term on the personnel board.
I'll second.
second, any discussion?
I would, so discussion on this, I would just also remind the board that this was another member of the personnel board that was quite an obstruction to the assistant town administrator search and dragged this, what should have been a simple job posting, something that should have taken a couple months, into about an 8 to 10 month affair. So I would just respectfully remind the board of the unnecessary hardship that we have to go through to get that done before we just reappoint people to that personnel board that were part of that.
Noted. Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did everybody vote?
Yes.
You, okay, so 4-1. All right, so that, so the next thing we're gonna do is we will reach out to Mr. Latini and Mr. Busnell about, having them do you want them to come in? Is that what you're?
You know, if they don't mind, if they just, again, I could use more than one sentence.
From both?
Well,
Sure.
Yeah.
From both,
I think if
okay.
there's two people interested, then,
Okay.
but they're not, I don't think they're required to come or to
Yeah, I'm not
write
forcing
more of a
anybody to do
letter,
anything,
but
don't know,
I
it's-
think if you're interested in serving and there's two people that are wanting to serve, maybe better understanding
So, all right, perfect. I can,
why or what their history has been,
I don't want to
or,
expand at all. That would
yeah,
help
just a
myself.
little bit more context would be great.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, we really need to be taking these appointments seriously, because we need to make sure we're appointing people that are, kind of share our vision, and I am a little bit upset that we're just like reappointing people to boards that, because the way that search went down was just completely unacceptable. And I'm a little discouraged that, I'm very discouraged that we're reappointing people that unnecessarily made that made that search and that job title, I mean, that took up weeks and weeks of my time to try to deal with that, and to just reappoint somebody back to that board without any sort of like reflection on how that member behaved, performed, their duty on the personnel board. I just think, you know, we're gonna get what we deserve. We need to start taking these appointments a little bit more seriously.
Why do you feel like people did not vote without reflection?
Because I think that,
Like, do you think that, and we each have a vote, and we all voted?
yeah.
Just because you did not like that vote, doesn't mean that other people did not reflect on that vote.
Yeah, well, we reflected on it for a minute, so.
It was on the agenda.
All right, well,
We knew it was coming. We've been talking about this for months.
all right, well, I mean,
You may not like the choice, but we all
no,
have a
you're
vote.
right, you're right. I don't, and I'm just making that known one last time, because I think this, I just think it's an important duty, and I just kind of, yeah, it's kind of tired of getting kicked around by boards that we appoint, and we never seem to do anything about it, so it's just kind of frustrating, that's all.
Understood. All right, anything further on the appointments? All right, moving on.
Mr. Chairman, I just have to react to that, because in response that I always felt, and I think when you appoint people to these boards, they're supposed to independently look at the situations before them and not vote because in a manner that they think the Board of Selectmen want them to vote. That's not what it's about. It's about looking at the individual situation and doing what they feel is the right process to do.
Right, and it's about performing your duty on that board, not
Yes.
going outside of the roles of your responsibility and
Well,
trying to obstruct a position that
That's
we
your
went out of our way to try to,
interpretation,
you guys
Mr.
had, you had no role
That's
in
your
trying to obstruct
interpretation.
that job position. All we were doing was creating a job description, and you guys were against that. There were members of that personnel board that were against it because they were afraid that an assistant town administrator was gonna be another check on them on accountability. They didn't want to do it. You were personally against it because you felt someone that you knew was being overlooked for that position.
You're
So you had
absolutely
all
right.
these
You're making an
personal,
assumption,
you had all these
Edward.
personal
And I
agendas
take
coming into
that
that
as an
personnel board,
insult.
and that is exactly why.
I'm sorry.
That's why I made the motion that I did, because I don't think that.
I'm sorry. That's your assumption.
And
That's
people
your
on that
assumption.
personnel board were
Point of
also
order,
making
hold on.
accusations that members of the select board had a preferred candidate that was completely unfounded. We had to deal with that. That was going on for months and months. The behavior of that personnel board during the assistant town administrator search was absolutely embarrassing. And I'm embarrassed right
I
now
beg
that
to
this
differ
board
with
didn't have
you.
the backbone
I
to just,
beg to differ with you.
take care of business on the boards that we appoint. Like, there should be ramifications for the way some of these boards are interacting. And, I mean, our chairman at that first meeting, basically, Selectman Kerrigan just got up and left, because you guys were so rude to him when he was coming here trying to explain the benefits of that position. Because you guys all had these preconceived notions of what you wanted the position to be, or if you wanted it, or if you didn't want it. That's not the personnel board's job at that time. The personnel board's job at that time was to work with us on a job description. And you didn't want the job, so you delayed the position for 8 to 10 months, unnecessarily.
Not
It was a complete embarrassment of the role of what that board is supposed to do. And we'll see what happens with this hearing, but I'm extremely disappointed that we just appointed another member back to that board. I think this board has no spine. I'm amazed that we did that.
Oh, my goodness.
In all fairness, you and I did have a conversation outside Apple Country, and
Absolutely,
your
absolutely.
words to me,
And-
let me
and-
finish.
No, I-
Your words to me
on-
were, if this person doesn't get the job, I'm gonna raise holy hell, quote unquote. That's what you said to me.
That's not what I did say.
And
to you.
that's-
That is
No,
100%,
no
and I
And
will
that's exactly
swear
right.
on my mother's grave about it.
I
And that's
don't
what we
know.
don't want on the personnel board. That's why
No.
that's why we're trying to do our duty, trying to put people on the personnel board that have the town's interests in mind, not their own personal little vendettas and their own personal interests. And that was just awful the way that whole thing went down. The way everyone had their own personal little reason. No one's looking at the best interest of the town. Everyone's just selfishly looking at what's the best thing for them. And that's why I think it's important that we had a shakeup of that board. And it was
Understood,
just
so
disappointing.
let's move on. let's move on. Maintenance of town property at 239 Chestnut Street. This is the old Legion property that's vacant, that's kind of turned into a neighborhood storage location. What I was looking towards doing is requesting support to have facilities look at maybe clearing some of that brush out. Nothing major, not doing a major renovation by any means, but just to kind of open it up, so we can kind of, we can keep it for the I guess the intent, well, not the intent, but for something that's feasible versus right now where people are storing trailers, tents, plows, and so on.
Mr. Chair, I move we authorize the Director of Facilities to consider maintenance of town property located at 239 Chestnut Street.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Just for clarification, Mr. Chair, I mean, the facilities, I think, can go up there and clear the property, but is there a subsequent issue on vehicles there, or do you want those,
No, I think just to kind of open it up to see really what's there. I wouldn't advise that we get into moving anything that is there, but at least
that could be a next something in the future, if need be. So.
I mean, it's an empty lot, and I think if people are parking there, at least it's being used, but I think some of the things that are up there are, like I said, there's tents, there's trailers, there's plows, and I just don't think that, it.
Okay, so the first step would just be to clear the lot, and then we'll go from there. So.
Yeah,
Yep.
the cars that are parking there, they're off the street, and it's already limited parking in that stretch of Chestnut Street as it is.
I think it's a good idea to clear the
personally-
lot and just to help that neighborhood and maintenance of town property. I think that's a good idea. So I just want to make sure that we're just going to clear brush, and then any other issues will be for future consideration.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
If there's anything that the facilities director sees, or if any concerns that anyone else has.
Okay, thank you.
Political signs and public property. So I put this on the agenda. I noticed this past election, there were quite a few political signs being placed on town property, which I hadn't recalled seeing previously. And some of these signs are still on town property, even though the election's been passed now for a week. So I don't know if we can at least direct someone to remove some of the signs. There are these little pockets that, like there's one down across the street, down towards where Shaw's is, where there's this little stretch of town property. There's one there, and then, but that was a little discouraging. It wasn't something I've ever noticed before, but there were signs that had to be removed from Hamilton Square. There was a sign that was at 239 Chestnut Street. There was a sign, I think, at the Peninsula down here on Chestnut and Mechanic. So just to make it known, we saw them, and we will have them removed.
Yeah, sure, no, if there were more out there, absolutely, I'll talk with the building inspector, as he was trying to keep up with it during the campaign, because town property can't be used for political purposes, so they really shouldn't be, and just to inform the public, if they're doing, whoever's doing that should not take place, that we're not allowed to use public town property for political campaigning. So if there are more out there, I'll certainly ask Mr. Salmon to drive around and take a look for them. So.
Excellent. Moving on, the Light Up Town Hall draft use policy. Thank you for putting together a draft on the policy. I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to kind of look it over. This was, again, this refers to the white globes, the white lights around the town hall. Being able to put in LED lights that have the ability to change different colors, to show support for different, causes. I don't know if we wanna look it over and if anyone's ready to approve it now, or if you want some time to look it over.
If it pleases the board, I'd be happy to make a motion to adopt the policy, the Light Up Town Hall use policy relative to lighting of globes at the entrances to Clinton Town Hall as presented in our packet.
Second.
Second, any discussion or questions? Thank you very much for putting that together, that's awesome.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, as I said before, it's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, it's great. It's comprehensive, it's flexible, it's exactly what we should be doing.
Excellent, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Lastly, the Women's Club donation for the Light Up Town Hall initiative. So when members of when the Council on Aging had come in at a previous meeting, members of the Women's Club had overheard about the Light Up initiative and had extended a donation to purchase the LED lights. We have accepted these lights at a previous, we did accept the donation.
Yeah, they followed through with that pledge, and they have brought forward a check for $150. So just wanted to bring it to the board's attention, to acknowledge that, and to accept that, formally accept the donation to be used for that purpose, for that project.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the Clinton Women's Club generous donation for $150 to be used for the Light Up Town Hall initiative.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And what we'd like to do, Mr. Chair, is we'll draft a letter for, if the board's okay, for the chairman to sign, just giving them formal thank you and acknowledging if they need it for their file, so they'd have an acknowledgement that we received it for public purpose, and thank them for the donation.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. For committee reports, I'm just gonna throw this out there under, before we get to committee reports. Just a reminder for the tax rate rebate program for the senior citizens and the veterans of Clinton. You can inquire at the senior center or the Council on Aging, and with the veterans agent here at the town hall. The rebates are up to $1,500 and require some volunteer work, but it's a great way to knock some money off the bill. Committee reports, anything else? So our next meeting is going to be on November 30th, Wednesday, November 30th. We will be entering executive session under Article 6. We will not be returning to open session. I will accept a roll call to leave open session and enter executive session.
I do all night.
Sean Kerrigan, aye.
Julie Bruce, aye.
Mary Dick, aye.
Matt Kovasai. Thank you very much.